Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, this is Station. We are ready.
International School of Panama, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Space Station, this is the International School of Panama. How do you hear me?
To the International School of Panama, the International Space Station has you loud and clear. Welcome on board.
Copy. My name is Danny DePietro. I am a middle school science teacher here at the International School of Panama. We are a school of approximately 1,400 students from around 40 different nationalities. We also have some other schools here from Panama representing the entire country. We just want to say thank you so very much for spending your time and talking to us, as well as congratulations on your historic all-female spacewalk, and we wish you all the best with the rest of Expedition 61. I'd now like to introduce the two high schoolers who will run the Q&A. They are Jose and Paloma. And thanks again, ladies. You rock.
Let's welcome our first speaker, Red Joe, from kindergarten, our youngest inquirer.
For Christina, my question is, what does it feel like when you look down on your home country or town from space?
Yes, that's a wonderful question. And before I answer it, I just wanted to say hello to Danny and to all of you. Thank you for having us. And Danny, it's great to hear your voice again. It is indeed a wonderful feeling to look down on your hometown. I've had that great honor a couple times, and I'll never forget the very first time. I am from coastal North Carolina, and I remember, you know, the distinctive outer banks of coastal North Carolina kind of coming into focus the first time I saw them around the horizon of Earth, and it completely took my breath away. It was like looking at a map, except it was real, and I used all the same identifying features that I've used when I would look at a map to find my hometown and to see where I was from. And that perspective of recognizing your place on the planet and what it means to be from somewhere was just really, really special. And it's still special. I still love looking down on my hometown. I love looking down on the entire United States where I'm from, all the different places I've lived, and where my crewmates are from too.
Thank you. Next up is Sonia from 6th grade.
For Jessica, our generation is currently fighting for their future on Earth, our current and only habitat. How will Artemis missions help save our planet Earth?
Well, that is a very good point. Taking care of our one home planet is an incredibly important goal for all of us. When we study planetary bodies like the moon, other planets like Mars, we actually learn a lot also about our home planet. We learn more about the formation of all of these planetary bodies and our solar system, including the Earth. So studying beyond the Earth can help inform us on many of the processes that are vital to keeping Earth healthy as well. One of the other objectives, too, for the Artemis missions, going to the moon and going back to Mars, is that this will involve a lot of new hardware and technology to be developed. Now, anytime we develop new technology and hardware for any application, whether it be on Earth or in space, there are always unintentional and unanticipated benefits that have spin-offs toward other goals and other projects that will benefit people on Earth. One of my favorite examples is the robotic arm, the Canadarm, which is the big robotic arm on the outside of the International Space Station. We use it to move people around, to move hardware around. Some spin-offs from this technology actually were critical to developing the very first robotic arm to do neurosurgery in a patient in an MRI machine. So you can see how sometimes these unanticipated benefits actually have multiple benefits down the road, which can help people in their everyday lives on Earth.
That was an amazing question. We will now continue to Samuel from 8th grade.
For Christina, if you were chosen for the Artemis mission and had a choice, what is the first experiment or test you would do on the moon?
Wow, that is quite a proposition. If I were chosen and had that honor, Gosh, it's almost hard to pick. There are so many wonderful things that we can do at the moon, both for science and technology development. It has a lot of keys it can unlock for our solar system in terms of planetary geology, like Jessica was talking about. But I think the thing that I personally have an interest in focusing on would be more in the technology development realm and operations development realm, because the moon and going back there with a permanent presence is all about informing our future mission to go to Mars and to explore Mars. And to me, the big scientific and philosophical question of our time that we can answer by going to Mars is, are we alone? Is there life on Mars? And so I would really be interested in using the moon as a test bed for the different technologies and processes that we would eventually use on Mars to look for signs of life.
Thank you, Christina. Now we will continue to Juan from first grade.
How do you scratch and itch when you have the spacesuit on?
That's a really important question, and I think something that both of us have battled out there when we're doing a spacewalk. You know, your hand, you can't just reach up and touch anything on your face. So what we do, we actually have a small device called the Valsalva device in the helmet, which helps us clear our ears. You know, like when you're in a pool and you dive down and sometimes you have to clear your ears due to the change in pressure. We experience the same thing in the spacesuit when we change pressures when we go outside in order to conduct the spacewalk. So we have this little device to help us, but it actually doubles as a little itching device. So it happened to me just the other day when Christina and I were out for our spacewalk. I did have a little itch on my nose, and so I was able to kind of move my head down here like this and get down to that and just touch the corner of my nose to that, and it did satisfy that itch.
And now we will continue with Lily and Catalina from 6th and 3rd grade.
For Christina, can you describe a time when you felt most scared
or nervous while aboard the space station?
Well, definitely the most scared or nervous I ever am is before I conduct interviews, oftentimes like this, when I know I'm going to have to be on TV. But other than that, I would say there is one time that stands out, and it's the one time when I caught my heart actually racing, and it was on my very first spacewalk ever. It was way back in March, and in April maybe, and at that time I was in the airlock, and we had depressed, so we had gotten all of the air out of the airlock, and we opened the hatch to the vacuum of space, and I looked down, and all I saw where there had been, you know, just a normal part of station was blackness, because we were actually on the dark side of the Earth at that time. And my heart rate shot through the roof for just a few seconds before, you know, I was able to tell myself, no, this is what you're doing today. You're going to go outside into the vacuum of space and conduct a spacewalk. So that was a really exciting time. It stood out to me. But I think that the most important thing is that when you have those fears or those nerves, if you can channel it and channel it into focus or drive, that's the most important part, to end up using it as a way that you can actually be your best.
That was an inspirational answer. We will now continue to Kareem from 3rd grade.
For Jessica, how can you ensure your mental well-being while being in a very different situation from life on Earth? Do astronauts practice mindfulness?
That's a great question, because there are so many different factors, including very many psychological factors, similar to what Christina was just describing in that example as well, when we're up here in this very foreign and alien environment. I think that this really comes down to the individual. I think different people have different coping strategies for how they deal with these things. But in general, I think the thing that we all rely on the most in being mindful, you know, is just making sure that we are present in that moment. We're appreciating what is happening in the present moment, and we are relying on the training that we had on the ground. Christina and I, before we got up here to the space station, we had been training for 6 years, so we have gone through almost every step of what we're doing up here. We have practiced it repeatedly. A great example for that is the spacewalk training. We conduct all of that training in the spacesuit in a pool, so it's not exactly like it is up here in the vacuum of space. Of course, there are big differences, but we've been in that environment so many times training. We've developed the muscle memory and gone through all the actions, so that when we're doing things up here, we can simply go back to that. We can still have our mind in the present, but rely on the muscle memory that we developed from years of training to make us feel comfortable. And I think that's one of the biggest aspects that helps us do these jobs successfully and safely, even though we are in this harsh and inhospitable environment.
Thank you, Jessica, for enlightening us. Now we will move to Tiago from 3rd grade.
For Christina, what is the first thing you want to do when you get back from space?
Well, I am finally to the point in my mission where I can actually think about that, because in about 2 weeks I will be returning to Earth, and it's an exciting time. I think the thing I look forward to the most is just seeing my friends and family, especially my husband, giving everyone a hug, and just knowing that we're all back together and that the people I love the most in the world I can be around again. I think after that, I like to think about things like being out in the outdoors again. I love the beach and I live near the ocean, so I look forward to that first walk on the beach.
Moving on to the next question, we have Mihailo from 3rd grade.
Привет, Jessica. What is the thing you miss the most from Earth in space?
You know, we get asked that a lot, and actually I can say I don't really miss anything, and I was even surprised by that. I mean, of course we miss our family and friends, like Christina just mentioned as well, but I did find that I think it's because we have so much new, exciting stuff around us at all times. We're doing things every day that we've dreamed about our entire lives. We're looking out the window at this view that we thought, you know, we'd only seen in our dreams. And so I think because of that, everything is so new and exciting. You don't really miss the things you have back home. You know, if you're sitting at home on your couch and you're deprived of one thing, you might think, well, I really miss that because you're used to having it. But up here, where everything's new, I found that I don't actually miss those things back home.
Next up is Leah from 5th grade.
For Christina, can you see the effects of climate change on Earth from the space station?
You know, there are a lot of different scientific missions that NASA has to observe Earth and see evidence of our changing climate. One thing that we can actually see with our own eyes would be glaciers and the recession of glaciers and glaciers shrinking over time. So when we fly over, for example, an area we fly over a lot that we think is really beautiful is Patagonia in South America. And we can actually see the front lines of those glaciers and see how they change over time. There's a lot of different things that we could see up here if we were up here long enough to observe them over time. Like you could, for example, think about sea level rise and actually seeing the outline of low-lying islands changing with time. But I would say glaciers are the one thing that we have the most insight on with our own eyes, and Jessica and I have both seen evidence of that from up here.
These are all great questions. We will now continue to Ilan from 5th grade.
For Jessica, what are the criteria for choosing the astronauts that will fly aboard the Artemis missions?
Well, I don't know specifically, I'm not on the selection for that, but I think it's going to be very similar to how we choose astronauts for all our missions. And some of those key elements are that we choose people that have a diverse set of skills. So you're not just a specialist in one tiny little area, but you're very well-rounded. So just like at school, when people tell you, your teachers tell you, you know, it's good to be well-rounded, do a lot of different types of things, academic work, but maybe sports or maybe music, whatever it is that you're interested in. So for us as astronauts, having a diverse skill set will be very important to the many goals of the mission. So you'll want to have people that represent all of the critical backgrounds as well, an engineering background, scientific background, so looking at things like biology, if you're going to have some kind of sustainable food system, a medical doctor in case people need to be taken care of for a very long duration mission where we can't get home in a short amount of time. You want to have all of these critical roles filled and represented in our team. And then also what we like to say is you want to have the kind of people around you I like to put it as the kind of people that you would want to bring on a camping trip. You want to be surrounded by people who know how to take care of themselves and then also know how to help take care of you and are good team players, good leaders, but also good followers and kind of adapt and change between those roles, and have just good what we call expeditionary skills. Really, this is just a fancy way of saying how to play nicely with others, just like what your parents and teachers tell you all the time. You know, when we're up here for 6 months or even almost a year, like in Christina's case, of course you want to be surrounded by people that are nice and friendly and fun. So all of those elements are very important and will be equally important for an Artemis mission.
Our next question comes from Andreas from 7th grade.
For Jessica, do you dream differently in space than on Earth?
You know what? I found out that I do actually dream differently up here. And I think it's because I actually sleep so deeply here. And that's because of how we sleep. We actually sleep floating, as you can imagine. And so it's very, very comfortable and very peaceful. No hot spots, no aches or pains. We just actually float in a little sleeping bag that is just attached to any wall or any surface. And I think because I have such deep sleep, I have really vivid dreams. I do dream that I'm floating in space. I dream sometimes that I'm on the Earth, so it's a little bit of a mix of everything.
This will be our last question from Isabella, 7th grade.
For Jessica, does the experience of being in space affect your view on life and how you view the world?
That was actually something I thought a lot about before coming up here. And for me, I think there are two main things that really come to mind and are a bit more of a philosophical front when you're looking back at the Earth. And the first is how special and really how precious and fragile our one planet Earth is. One of the questions earlier addressed that your generation needs to make sure that we take care of our home planet. And when you look down from up here and you see the thin atmosphere and you see the land and you see the oceans, that becomes even more profound and even more importance. And I think the other factor is how insignificant it makes us feel as humans in terms of our role in the bigger picture. So in stepping back from the planet, in our role in the solar system and even in the universe, when you're looking down it's easy to appreciate that we actually as humans and even as the whole planet Earth are really just a very small piece of the puzzle. And one of the things that Christina and I talked about a lot, we did our last spacewalk on Martin Luther King Day, and one of the quotes that I used of Martin Luther King Jr.'s was, I think, pretty appropriate in how it feels and how it changes you to look back at the Earth and to realize that we're all in this together.
And station, we are back after the handover.
And to the International School of Panama, I think we have you back.
Okay, so we will continue with our question given by Rania from 7th grade.
For Christina, if you were chosen to be the first woman to walk on the moon, what would you be most nervous or excited about?
Well, if I were to ever have that great honor, I think that I would be most excited about representing all of humanity. I would be most excited about carrying the dreams of everyone who wishes to explore, everyone who's curious, everyone who likes to see us push forward and push the envelope, and to hopefully bring those dreams to where I'm at and to share everything that I'm seeing with them. And also hopefully to inspire and to pay homage to those that paved the way for me to be there. As I said, it would be a great honor, and I think any of us would be incredibly just honored to do that.
One more question.
Will be our last question, given by Lucas from 8th grade.
For Jessica, do you believe the human race can create a permanent self-sustained station living environment on the moon or Mars?
I do believe that we have that capability, and whether or not that becomes a permanent settlement will really just depend on the directives of the funding and also the vision of the administration and the NASA program. So we'll see how we get there. But right now we have the means, and we have been already collecting decades of research and hardware technologies right here on the International Space Station in order to move us in that direction. We are constantly testing things out that will help us develop that permanent presence, whether it be life support systems on the International Space Station, understanding more about how the spaceflight environment affects our human bodies, our physiological systems, and what changes we might anticipate and need to deal with for these long duration missions. So with this wealth of data, we are able to apply these to those future missions to the moon, and we will be going to the moon and eventually on to Mars beginning as early as the 2020s, when we land the first female and the next male on the surface of the moon, and then towards that permanent presence.
Thank you very much. Now let's welcome ISP's director, Vicky Stibert.
Thank you so much, Christina and Jessica. It's just been truly inspirational listening to you and for you sharing your time, your knowledge, and your wisdom with all of us. It really is a historic morning for ISP. Thank you so much. As we found out this morning, ISP...
It's really our... Thank you very much. It really was our pleasure. We love reaching out to students and being able to share this. I know for both of us, it's an incredibly important goal of our mission to share this experience with as many people as possible. So thank you for joining us up here today. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
What a pleasure for us.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes our event as we count down to 20 continuous years of humans living and working on the International Space Station.
Thank you to all participants from the International School of Panama. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.